Well, hello, true gardeners. Welcome back. Today we are in my backyard, Vero Beach, Florida, Zone 10A, and summer is here. Whew, if you haven't felt it already, you're feeling it now. Summer is here, and I want to talk to you about my favorite 5 blooming perennials that I use in my garden and so many others. As a landscape designer, these are kind of my go-to flowering power punch of bloomers that I'll incorporate into a lot of my landscapes along the Treasure and Space Coast. So these are plants and trees that are going to do well as far south as Key West, all the way up to the Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach, kind of in that environment kind of area. So all up the coast, they're going to do fabulous. And so I thought I would point out my favorites and why. So the very first one, if you hadn't noticed, is the lion's tail. This is a fabulous bloomer. Love, love, love it. You can plant it in a nice little cluster like I have here by a walkway. It really produces a power punch of that orange kind of bloom. And I just absolutely love it in the garden. I've only had this one species. I planted it as one 7-gallon plant, clumps beautifully, produces these vibrant blooms. I trim it about 3 times a year, so really, really easy to keep it manageable. And that says a lot considering where it's at. It's along this little pathway, so super hard to keep something here that isn't going to take over. Like a fire spike might encroach too much in this area. So this lion's tail, I think, is just such a fantastic little specimen for the garden. This is kind of what the standard summer bloom is, but you guys, if you're in full sun, this beauty would be covered in orange tiger tail kind of blooms. But what I do love about it, even when it's not blooming, you got these gorgeous green leaves on it. It's absolutely a stunner. Now, anything with big leaves, the bugs can find a home for, so they can live underneath. So definitely it's one of those that you want to keep an eye on it. You know, add a drench to it if you need it. That way it's kind of protected over time. Fertilize it so it's nice and a strong plant. But overall, it is an easy to care for tropical. Trim it very, very little. Let it flesh out. Let it bloom. It will bloom all season long. Loves, loves, loves a blooming fertilizer 2 to 3 times a year. And you guys know I love fertilizing in March, June, September timeframe. That really does a good job of really kind of keeping everything lush and tropical. So do not sleep on the lion's tail plant. I absolutely love it. I like to keep mine pretty mounded. So think about like a mushroom top. So you kind of want to allow it to be taller at the top. Find out where you want it to be. This guy will grow all the way up to 8 foot if you let it, but this is the perfect height for me. I kind of just wanted it to cover the hose reel for when you're walking around the corner. Keep it a little high at the top, and then along the corners, you'll start trimming along these edges. So you'll make sure you trim and keep these side areas nice and tight and tucked. So you trim shorter here, a little longer here, a little longer here, a little longer here, and the longest here. And think about a mushroom. That's kind of the look that you want. The more you trim these, the more they'll bloom. They're absolutely love to be touched up and trimmed. So I trim mine about every 3 months, sometimes 4 months, but if I trimmed them more often, they'd be happier. So it's up to you guys on how you like to maintain them. Because they're near a walkway, I do trim them as needed based on my walkway. Fabulous, fabulous growers. Keep them around 4, 5, 6 foot tall. Ideal size. They do love it. So now let's go check out the next one. So as we walk together from the backyard to the front yard to look at the next blooming plant, I want to ask you guys to please like and subscribe. As most of you guys know that have been with my channel for a while, that we were hacked a couple weeks ago. So we are starting fresh, brand new with new content for you all. And we will be publishing 2 videos. Yes, I said it, 2 videos every single week. So every Saturday and Sunday will be a new video from your girl, True Gardener. And I'll do my best to answer some comments that you guys have put in. It's such great comments and things that I've run across as a landscape designer. So if this is your vibe, then stick around, because that is what we're doing here. We are talking about tropicals. We're talking about jungle inspired gardens. We're talking about resort style garden landscapes. That is what we do on this channel. So I will see you guys every single Saturday if you hit that little bell. But now let's get into the blooming plants. Can you guys see that bloom up there? All right, so it's probably no wonder why the Brazilian red cloaks are one of my top choices when it comes to blooming plants. Now, I do know this is not technically your small layered blooming plant. This is a grouped blooming, perfect for buffer plantings, perfect for big clusters. It does not need to be this big. This is just kind of what I needed for this particular spot in my garden. But there's many places that I've created this in clusters where I needed something 5 foot by 5 foot, and it's an ideal plant grouping to work with. So don't let this intimidate you to the back. They bloom whether they're here or whether they're there. They're absolutely fantastic bloomers. This one just went through a series of a heavy bloom season during the spring, and now it's kind of coming back and it's getting ready to pop out with new color again. They'll go through that cycle, so I hate that we missed it. I'll get Bryce to pop up some pictures of what that looks like when they're in full gorgeous bloom. They're gonna go through bloom. Those blooms last several months, so it'll have tons and tons of color for several months. Then you'll have about a month, maybe 6 weeks before it starts to really flesh out. But this is the in-between period, and you can still see we have top layer blooms up there that are remaining. So if you're looking for something that's going to give you great color in your garden, and maybe a bonus, if you need something that's going to kind of create a little bit of buffering from you or your neighbor, or that perfect spot outside your kitchen window where you might be facing one of your neighbor's kitchen window, this is an ideal plant to use. It has gorgeous green foliage when it's not in bloom, so you're kind of not missing out on anything, because this color and this big giant leaf, it's like double the size of my hand, gives you that tropical feel. You can propagate this plant. You can just cut off one of these limbs that you see here. So you can cut off one of these limbs here right between the nodes, cut that guy off, peel off the bottom 3 leaves, put them right into the ground, a little extra water. 6 weeks later, you have a brand new plant. So it is... Yeah. Or a gift. That's right, Bryce. It's an ideal thing to have in your garden. Let it cluster and then propagate it throughout the rest of your garden. So to me, this is not just an awesome bloomer, but it's definitely a money saver when it comes to being able to use it in several areas of your garden, or give away to family and friends. So Brazilian red cloaks, now they can handle temperatures all the way into the low 30s, just around that freezing level, and they start kind of getting really yucky. So you might get some burn back on them, but overall they can handle it. When they become thicker clusters, they can handle windy areas like nobody's business. Initially, they're gonna struggle. They're gonna get a little bit wind burnt, but let them become thick little groupings like I have here, because this particular spot is a very windy spot. If you have courtyards or maybe a wall planting around your pool area, have them pop up over top of a wall. I'll get Bryce to incorporate a picture of what that looks like, and they just kind of give you that next tier of coverage right above that, or above a fence. Ideal to kind of really soften those hard edges of any kind of hard structure like that. But Brazilian red cloaks are definitely one of my go-tos when I'm incorporating them into my landscape designs through all along projects that I do through the Treasure and Space Coast. Go-to. If you're looking to create some brightness, more of a green and white pattern, I'm getting a lot of clients who are asking me for that, which I love that kind of look where it's green, different shades of green, and then pops of white with the blooms. Those last 2 are going to be white bloomers, and I think they're just going to be stunning in any garden. All right, you guys, so the next one is the dwarf firebush. I absolutely love this guy. I think that it is a fantastic plant grouping. This one really blooms this gorgeous red and orange tone. So this is the dwarf variety, believe it or not, of the firebush. So this is not the native variety, but you cannot tell that to the butterflies and the birds, because they absolutely adore this plant. They're literally covered. I'm sure we've scared them off as, you know, running through here, but they bloom 10 to 12 months out of the year. Yeah, you heard it right. Even in the winter, they'll pop off with blooms, but this time of the year is when they really get going with tons and tons of blooms. I'll list the pros and the cons of this kind of plant. So first, to tell you a little bit about it, it is a dwarf. I know. Why it's called dwarf firebush is because it can be maintained as little as 3 foot tall. So right now it's 5 foot plus, because I'm 5'6", and it's really reaching that kind of height in the middle. You can maintain this easily at 3 foot tall. It can be kept dense from the top all the way to the bottom. Now, if you try to maintain something that's not a dwarf plant at 3 foot tall, you'll have nothing but wood stalks to it and maybe a little bit of coverage at the top. If we cut this all the way down to 3 foot, it would flush out from the bottom all the way to the top. So it allows you to keep it the way you want to keep it, but it doesn't mean that it won't outgrow a dwarf size. So it'll grow all the way to 10 or 12 foot tall. I've actually done plantings where I've created a backyard all the way around fence buffer with these guys, because the clients wanted butterflies and wanted birds, and this is a great bit of foliage for that. So we did a nice looped kind of all the way around the property perimeter buffer with these, and popped palms, big palms out of them, and it was absolutely stunning because they had constant color. So these are actually one of my favorite plants for that particular reason, because they can stay dense, they can stay full, and they can handle filtered light and full sun. They do bloom far better in full sun environments. They can handle a good amount of moisture. So if the rest of your landscaping needs 3 to 4 days of irrigation of water every single day, these guys will be okay in that kind of environment. Or if you're in an environment where they only gets 2 days a week of water, again, they're going to do just fine. So they can handle quite a bit of different environments and still bloom and be their beautiful selves. So dwarf firebush are on my list of gorgeous bloomers, and of course, such a beautiful butterfly attractant. So for my next favorite blooming plant is the Pinwheel Jasmine. You know, it really doesn't need much introduction. I love, love, love this plant. It is mainly the only jasmine that I do use. I'm not a very big fan of some of the other ones that kind of go sprawling a little bit crazy. I love the clumping variety, and these do a fabulous job for kind of pulling together a cluster of one bright pop of color in a garden. What I love most about these particular plants are their versatility. This can handle full sun like where we're at right now, or it can handle filtered light and still bloom. So if you're looking for something to kind of create a bright spot into the garden, they're fabulous for that. They give you this pinwheel kind of bloom. It's just so gorgeous, and it floods the plant with it. Now, it does only bloom in the spring and the summer. You will get no blooms in the winter on this guy. And then also it does thin out too during the winter months, where I've had a lot of clients say, well, you know, I'm okay with it kind of becoming a little bit thin during the winter months because maybe they're not here or they have other things that they can appreciate in the garden. So definitely keep that in mind because they're not their best during that time of the year. But the rest of the year, showstoppers. This bloom is so bright white that I can see this at night. It's amazing how bright this little area is lit up along this collusia hedge. So don't sleep on the Pinwheel Jasmine because they're absolutely stunners, and you can kind of keep them compact in one area. I'll get Bryce to pop in some pictures on the inside where I have them, and all I did was like cluster 2 or 3 together and kind of create little spots, little pockets for them to really take off and give me those big white blossoms. And it's normally in a dark spot along a hedge or along an area that I need some kind of brightness. But they're fabulous bloomers, they're fabulous clusters, and they stay full from the bottom all the way to the top. So you're not really dealing with some of that legginess that you deal with a lot of the blooming plants. So
don't get fooled though, they don't smell.
Don't get fooled. They do not smell. A lot of jasmines do have a great fragrance. These do not. That's probably their only hiccup, that they're absolutely gorgeous. They look like they smell fabulous, but they do not have any kind of fragrance. But let's move on to the very last one, and this one does have a fragrance. So for our next blooming perennial would be the dwarf tree jasmine. I'll get Bryce to stick up the botanical name up here so you guys can find it. It is a little harder to find, but it is absolutely worth that little bit of effort to locate it because it is so cool in the garden. Whether you're looking to kind of create more of a bush grouping with it, or you're looking to kind of create a small tree with it, I'll get Bryce to pop in pictures of all 3 of those so that way you guys can decide if that, you know, what you're looking for the space. But I absolutely love, love, love this plant. This cluster grouping, and you guys, it just came out of bloom cycle. A month ago, it was absolutely covered with these clusters like that. I don't know if you can see the one branch of blooms, but that's exactly it. The whole branch is covered with these white tulip-like flowers. The bees, the butterflies, the birds absolutely love this little corner right here. It is perfect for a seating section. Has almost like a citrusy smell, so it's definitely worth having nearby. You can definitely, if the breeze is flowing, I can smell it when we're sitting in our seating area. And it's just a kind of a really, really cool tropical looking bloom and tropical looking clustered plant. Now, they come in a couple different varieties. This is the dwarf variety that has the small leaves. I'll get Bryce to post a picture of it over in my garden in a shades that I'm looking to kind of create more of like a 6-foot tall bush grouping. It's not yet in bloom because it's a really shady spot that it's going to, and needs like a little bit more sunlight. But I know as soon as it gets past that 4 or 5 foot range, it's going to get to that top section, which is going to totally get the sun that it needs to bloom. So I'm just kind of patiently waiting for it to get some size to it to bloom all at the top to kind of give me that pop of white color in the rear corner of my garden. So, but these dwarf tree jasmines are fabulous. You can clean the bottoms up and make them cool little trees. I have one in the front that I've made an actual tree, so it's one stalk and it has a tree. Or if you have the bushes and they're multiple stalks, you can clean those stalks off. It creates a beautiful tree cluster nurturing. So I've love working with them. They're tough, they're durable, they can handle the wind, they can handle drought tolerant conditions, they can handle a little bit more moisture than a lot of plants like. So they're kind of a really good balance. They'll live well in the shade, but they do need that sun to provide that big clusters of blooms. So think about, you know, kind of where you're placing them, but they're an ideal plant if you're looking to create kind of like a moon garden in certain spots, especially if you're looking to create something with a little bit of height. Now, this is not a plant that you can keep 2 foot. If you try to keep it 2 foot, it's really just kind of stunt out and not do its best. It's something that needs to be 4 foot and above. So kind of keep that in mind. I put them commonly on like blank walls along a house. So if I have some centerpiece that I need to kind of have bush out in the middle between 2 windows of a house, it's an ideal centerpiece backdrop to something like this, like a false agave. You can put it to the front, put that in the back, have the 2 windows and do something dramatic on the other side of the 2 windows, and you have a beautiful landscape combination. So they're great to work with, and you know, it's just hard to find things with fragrance. I love the gardenias, but I have a love-hate relationship with them because of pH levels get off and they can be a bit temperamental. So I need some things that are easy, and that's why I have several of these in my garden and only 1 gardenia in my gardens. So that is my last 5, I would say, non-negotiable tropical blooming plants that I use to create beautiful tropical gardens along the Treasure and Space Coast, just because of what they offer, their ability to thrive in tough environments and their ability to bloom and be beautiful in those same environments. So I hope you guys have really good luck with them, and please leave in the comment down below if you have other plants. I know there's tons of them, so if you have other plants that you can share with new gardeners to Florida, please share them in the comments. Some people love dwarf ixoras, some people love pagodas, some people, I mean, whatever that might be, share your experience. This is a shared gardening channel with failures and triumphs alike, so that way we can kind of help everybody along this journey, because landscaping in Florida, you know, it comes with its challenges. It's tough. So I hope that these kind of things help and you guys can create your beautiful, tropical, colorful garden. However, if you need more than just inspiration, I am a landscape designer. I do work along the Treasure and Space Coast. We also have a design-only service and, of course, the virtual service. So I'll put all of that contact information down below, and you can let us know if we're going to be a good fit for you guys. And if you guys loved today's video, then check out our last video that we posted last week. It's another garden tour about tropicals, and I hope you enjoy it. Take care, you guys.